Hello, I'm Jake LaMore, a proud auxiliary board member of the Kankakee County Museum, and we're honored to have with us a truly remarkable and versatile musician, David, is it Lahm?
It is. Rhymes with calm.
So David Lahm, a New York City native, David's journey in music began with classical piano at a young age of 7, but it was really the world of jazz that truly captured his imagination with icons like Thelonious Monk, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly, shaping his path. He has an impressive history from studying with the legendary George Russell to touring with Buddy Rich Orchestra. As a composer, he's known for his originality and for his unique interpretations of the music artists like Joni Mitchell. And we're thrilled to have him here ahead of his performance in our beautiful Column Garden on Thursday, September 18th, which you can get tickets for right now. I highly suggest doing that. You can go to the Kankakee County Museum's website, or you can go to the Facebook page for more information. So, David, I'm so honored to have you here.
I hope I live up to it.
I guess starting off, I mean, you were born into such a musically influenced family. I mean, your mother, Dorothy Fields, is a famous lyricist. And I was like, I had never heard of your mother's name, but then I looked her up and I'm looking at the songs that she wrote lyrics to, and I'm like, holy cow. Like, these are songs that I grew up listening to and know and actually have in some of my vinyl collections. And these are songs that, I mean, we're talking so many famous artists have all covered over the years. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say it's a part of like the Great American Songbook. Some of these songs, we're talking like The Way You Look Tonight, On the Sunny Side of the Street, I'm in the Mood for Love. Those songs are the ones that I was like, I know all of those. Yeah. How did her career and your home environment influence your decision to pursue music?
Very hard to answer that. I really, I must have had some genetic talent for music. I did get piano lessons. My mother was very positive about my pursuing that. She used to say, you got to do what you got to do. If this is the reason that I'm on the earth, then I'm going to try to make it work. So
was it really a forced thing that you had to do to take those piano lessons at first?
Not really.
Okay.
No, it was a way to get approval, which I think many children experience. But fortunately, it was something, as I said, that I had a little bit of a talent for. So it worked out pretty well for about 5 years. But I was not thrilled or motivated by the music that I was given to play, which was all what is so-called classical music. But as you pointed out, Thelonious Monk and some of his contemporaries in the late 1950s got me really excited. So that was what I wanted to do. And I felt like I was accomplishing enough that it was a realistic ambition.
Did your mother play piano at all? I know she was primarily a lyricist, but...
Well, she could read a lead sheet if it was written in quarter notes.
Okay.
And she did. She had a lovely version of Time on My Hands. And perhaps, that's the one that I remember her playing on the piano. Not one of her own songs, but Time on My Hands. Yeah.
Was it your instructor that was pushing the classical music, or was that coming from your mother?
No. I think at that time, and I'm talking about maybe around 1947, 48, that was, I guess, with some very rare exceptions that we didn't know about, that was what young children were given to play. So finally, my mother realized, she even said to me, she said, if it takes you 6 months to learn the first movement of Beethoven's Sonata Pathétique, it's time for you to give up the piano lessons and maybe just sort of go your own way. Now, of course, one of her greatest collaborators, and probably the one that she loved the best, was Jerome Kern. And she had on the piano the Jerome Kern songbook. And so after I kind of, what can I say, decompressed for a few months, or not really years, but for a long time, I think I didn't go near the piano very much.
And you didn't touch like any musical instrument?
No.
At that point?
Never have.
Okay.
Never have. But I started reading through the Jerome Kern songbook. And I think the first one was The Song Is You. That was the first one that I picked up on. And this was more congenial. And this was before I started to listen to jazz. And then I guess maybe my junior year in high school, I started to play the hymns for the morning chapel because I had been in that school since the fourth grade. So I had learned all of these by heart, listening to them over and over and over again. So that was kind of my first semi-professional gig.
Okay. I mean, I think a lot of us started musical careers in the church, right? Whether it was simply just singing along or you joined the choir, whatever it was.
Yes.
A lot of people got their musical start in the church. But going back to Thelonious Monk, though, what was it about his music that resonated with you at that age?
It was just before school started, I think, for my senior year. So that's the late summer of 1957. Three of us went from around New York City. We went up to the Adirondacks to just, have a little fun before school started, play a little golf. And my friend Andy Blue brought some recordings with him. And so one morning after breakfast, he puts on Thelonious Monk playing Honeysuckle Rose. And what Monk did with it, I literally fell on the floor. I was so excited by this. It was just obviously a huge creative event had happened when Monk sat down to play Honeysuckle Rose for the recording. It was great. And he had a great rhythm section along with him. So he became sort of my man, and very few people that I hung out with or my family or anybody had ever heard of Thelonious Monk, but that's all I talked about forever.
What was your mom's impression of that?
She didn't, I think she was happy that I was really motivated by something. Was not the kind of music that this particular kind of jazz, which was sort of what they now call the bebop era. This was not the kind of jazz that she had any familiarity with. However, I think she did recognize that it was jazz musicians and jazz vocalists that really made her songs the standards that they are. In fact, in 1995, the post office put out a series of stamps, and they put out 8 stamps. 4 of them were songwriters. I hope I can remember these correctly. Hoagy Carmichael, Harold Arlen, Dorothy Fields, and Johnny Mercer. Right? So right there, that's like 100 great songs. Right?
Yeah.
But they also put out band leaders, Basie, Dorsey. I forget who the other 2 were. So we were invited to the unveiling of these stamps, which took place in Schubert Alley in the theater district of New York City.
Perfect place.
We go, and I was moved to go over to the table where the Basie family was sitting. And I said to them, my mother's songs would never have attained the stature that they have if it were not for what Count Basie and his contemporaries and his colleagues did with those songs. And so in my mind, there was certainly a connection.
Yeah. No, you bring up a good point. I mean, if Count Basie didn't continue that trend, and people like Frank Sinatra too
Mm-hmm.
into the years past because those songs were written, a lot of them written in the 1930s,
Mm-hmm.
right? That your mother is best known for. And, Count Basie kind of brought those 20 some years past that, right? Or even 30 years past that.
Do you remember his record of April in Paris?
Probably. I might have that one. I'm trying to remember if I have
That's
that one.
That's the one where
he
goes, one more time at the end.
Okay.
And then, one more once. But that was by Vernon Duke. I think Vernon Duke and Yip Harburg wrote it. And I think that, of course, many of these songs were written for productions of one kind or another.
Oh, yes.
Right?
A lot of them.
So you take a song like a Rodgers and Hart song, like There's a Small Hotel. This was sung by Broadway actors in the original production. There are a few people who are collecting the Broadway version of There's a Small Hotel, but many more are collecting, whether Bennett did it or Sinatra did it or Peggy Lee did it, the jazzed up versions.
Yeah, the arrangement is completely different. You don't even recognize the song. It'll take you like a minute to figure out, oh, wait a minute, I know this song. This was something I used to hear Frank Sinatra sing or whatever. Yeah. But going back to your career, you had the opportunity to study with jazz masters like George Russell and Bill Evans. What was the most valuable lesson you learned from them?
Well, George Russell was, this is kind of, one of these stories where something very minute happened and it had a huge impact, right? So I was a freshman at Amherst College in the fall of 1958. And one day outside the dining hall on the message board, it said, "Big jazz sale in Morrow Dormitory, Tatham and Jones, room 3, whatever it was, So I go up there, and I had never heard Bill Evans play, and I had never heard any of George Russell's music. And when they played these for me, it was the same as when I heard Thelonious Monk play Honeysuckle Rose. Just, God, I've got to get into this. This was so creative and so true to jazz, So they told me about the School of Jazz at Lenox, Massachusetts. The main preceptors there were the Modern Jazz Quartet, John Lewis. He was kind of the music director of that. And so I applied for admission to there, and I was accepted. And George Russell was teaching his, at that time called the Lydian concept of tonal organization, which was something he developed. I think that he was hospitalized for quite a long time in several years earlier. And during that time was when he began to put this stuff together. And it was a way of playing and writing jazz that was enough different from, straight ahead bebop that it framed him as a really original composer. So there, I had heard this when I was up in the 3rd floor of Morrow Hall, like 9 months before. And now here I was at the School of Jazz sitting in a class that was being taught by George Russell. So picked up some of the stuff from there. When I went back to college, the first semester, I was so distracted by what I was listening to that I took a year off from college and went back to New York and took lessons in composition from George. And I feel that every note that I play somehow derives from his music and his approach to music.
So if people know George Russell,
which they don't,
I was going to say, can you try and describe what type of jazz George Russell?
Well, at that time, now he evolved later on the same way that Miles Davis did. They both departed from traditional jazz in a very radical way, and I didn't follow them. But George is simplified. His music was based on knowing a lot of different scales.
Yeah, because there's a lot of movement. Even in your music, there's a lot of movement up and down the scale. Yeah.
Just listen.
You just
listen to him.
Okay. Yeah.
Listen to his jazz workshop record on RCA Victor. I mean, the music really swings. That's the thing. It's very different harmonically. At that time, he was writing a lot of contrapuntal music. He used this particular recording. He had a saxophone, a trumpet, a guitar, piano, bass, and drums. And he wrote lines for the horns and also for the guitar and even for the piano that were melodic. It was not just playing chords and a single line over the top. So it was, I would say, almost completely unique at the time.
So, and you were saying a few minutes ago, you did not go in the path that he and like Miles Davis
That's true.
Went down.
Yeah.
What kind of path did you go down at that point?
I just stayed playing straight ahead.
Okay.
I just wanted to play songs. I wanted, and even now when I'm writing music, it takes the form of a song. It's weird, but it still takes the form of a song.
And then this is about the time that you joined Buddy Rich, the Buddy Rich Orchestra,
the Buddy Rich,
or is that a little later?
Yeah, the Buddy Rich thing came about in '68.
Oh, okay. So that is much later than what we're talking about now.
About 10 years later.
Okay. Well, how did that come about, and what that experience was like? Because a lot of people know, even if they don't really know who Buddy Rich is, they know the name.
Yeah. Well, he had a band, of course, a 15 or 16 piece band, and they were touring, and they were actually doing quite well. They were being booked by Willard Alexander, which meant that they did not have to play all one-nighters. You know, they toured England. In fact, I think it was just before I joined the band. They came back from Europe. Maybe it wasn't England, but they landed in New York. For some reason, their piano player got really angry about something, and they were going to open at a club called the Mark Twain Riverboat, which is in the basement of the Empire State Building.
Oh my gosh.
And so somebody called Randy Brecker. I don't know if you've heard of the Brecker brothers, but they were a great kind of fusion jazz group.
Okay.
You know, starting in the 70s and going on for years. And Randy is still out there playing. Randy is somebody that I met when I was a graduate student at Indiana University. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But anyway,
right.
somebody in Buddy's band contacted Randy Brecker, and he recommended me. And I was working at the time at ASCAP, the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. That's another story. I was identifying music from tapes that were sent in, and it was on a Wollensock 15/16 IPS. And my wife called me and said, Buddy Rich's band wants you to join them tonight at the Mark Twain Riverboat. So I said goodbye to the people at the ASCAP listening booth.
Oh my gosh.
Went home, went to the Mark Twain Riverboat, and I don't read music very well. Fortunately, again, the things that have come in my life that are so fortunate, so lucky. He had a guitar player at that time. And the guitar player's music was very close to what the piano parts were.
Oh, that's
so
good.
I could just kind of listen to Wally Namath play for, a few weeks before I sort of begin to pick up on it. And then Wally gets fired, So
oh gosh.
Then it's down to me.
Well, I would think a lot of what Buddy Rich did was improvised. Am I wrong? I mean,
well, there were improvs in every song, but there were also arrangements. I mean, maybe you've never heard his famous medley of West Side Story, But
No, I haven't.
That's the thing that was probably best known for. And a lot of these longer things include with a fantastic drum solo.
Well, I have to. He's Buddy Rich.
Yeah, he's Buddy Rich. But the West Side Story medley goes on for a long, long time as conventional jazz with a lot of written parts. And some of the arrangements were fantastic. He had an arrangement by Bob Florence on Love for Sale. That was my favorite. I thought that was the best chart that we had in the book. And I guess I was with him for about 15 months, I guess. I think we must have played, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 different charts.
Okay. And then at that point, when the guitarist you said he was fired, or
yeah.
Is that when you exited too? At that point,
no. That was when I was on my own at that point.
Okay.
I had to play the parts because Wally was gone.
You really had to figure it out at that point.
So I guess I did that maybe for another year. I think Wally hung around for a couple of months, and then actually he did hire other guitar players during that time.
You have had an amazing career. Your mother as well has had an amazing career. I'm curious though. A question I probably should have started off with was, is there a Kankakee connection for you at all? I mean, you mentioned, I think before recording, your wife is from Chicago, or you guys spent some time in Chicago?
Oh, yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she was born there. She had a catering business there for 25 years. But no, Kankakee proper, it's only from the Champagnes, from Mary and Steve.
Okay. So that's how, so how did you meet them?
Well, they lived at that time in Michigan City, Indiana. And Nancy, my wife, had a bed and breakfast in Harbert, Michigan, which is about 20 minutes.
Yep. I know where Harbert is.
You do?
Oh, yeah. I go there every summer.
What do you do there?
Well, my has been going up to Sawyer.
Right, Sawyer.
for like 70 years at this point. So we're always driving by Harbert.
Did you go this summer?
Yeah. We were just there last weekend. So yeah. Yep. So what was the bed and breakfast?
It was called, believe it or not, Harbert House Bed and Breakfast.
Okay. So
it was when you're driving up the Red Arrow Highway.
Yep.
When you get to, Louise's Swedish Bakery.
Yes.
You turn right, go across the tracks, and it was the fourth property on your left. It was a yellow, kind of a 2-story ranch house. She had 5 bedrooms. And my late wife, who was a cabaret singer with whom I worked for almost 20 years in and out of New York. Well, actually, almost exclusively in New York, except when we came to Union Pier, Michigan.
Okay, right next to Harbert.
Yeah, because Judy, my late wife, was a Chicago girl, and her parents, she was a little older than I, about 6 years older. Her parents had built a second house in Union Pier.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you familiar with Union Pier?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you know where the inn at Union Pier is?
I believe so.
It used to be Kerensky's Jewish Hotel.
Okay.
It's at the end of Berrien Street.
Okay.
Berrien Street and Lakeshore Road.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So if you go down Berrien and you get to the inn at Union Pier and then you make that hard right onto Lakeshore Road, three or four properties up on your left, looking over the lake, there's a flat roof house.
Yeah.
And it had a tennis court in front of it. Doesn't anymore. No, because it's been sold a couple of times.
Right.
But that house apparently was built by a pupil of Wright's, of Frank Lloyd Wright.
Okay.
And Dr. Cottle, that's Judy's father, had that house built in the mid-1930s. Judy and I started to go back to Union Pier after she'd been away from it for many years. But in 1984 or 85, we started to go back there. And we got eventually connected to the Acorn Theater in Three Oaks.
Yep. That's a very historic theater there.
And we used to do cabaret shows there. And one of the other things that happened there was I used to run open mics there. This was when the original owners of the theater were still in possession of it, Kim and David.
Okay.
And one of the people who eventually came and got up and sang was Mary. At that time, her name was Mary Rapier, I guess. Now she's Mary Champagne.
Yep.
So that's how I got connected to them.
Okay. Wow. What a small world.
Really?
Mary does know a lot of people. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
she does.
She's very well connected. Well, I'm so glad that you two met and now you're here in Kankakee. Everyone can come see you on September 18th.
That's our hope.
In the Column Garden. Now, I have to ask too, do you work in some of your mother's music at all into your show?
Well, we are going to do some of it, actually. And in fact, this afternoon when I leave here, we're gonna meet some of this. I'm going to meet some of the singers for the first time, and figure out who's the best person to do which song. But I think we'll probably do 4 or 5 of the best known songs by Dorothy Fields. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, your mother wrote over 400 songs and
that she did
for musicals and film.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And that obviously passed down to you as well. So, we've kind of talked about your playing, but, you ended up getting into composition and composing as well after so long. You kind of felt that calling. So where can people hear some of that, or what are some of the works that you're most proud of?
I never actually assembled a public. In fact, I joke. It's a sick joke. If I ever wrote a memoir, the subtitle would be "There's One in Every Crowd." Which
it happens
so often. That was true. I did have a band in New York City together. I did finance. Well, thanks to my mother, I was able to finance some recordings. But nobody really knows about these recordings. I think the only ones that are really available on YouTube, a lot of the Joni Mitchell,
right?
Jazz versions of Joni Mitchell songs.
What's your fascination with Joni Mitchell? Why Joni Mitchell?
She's the only one. Well, I would say this. There are some contemporaries of hers that write sort of original music rather than just kind of going over the same musical material over and over again, which it's too boring. But I think that even a Billy Joel, even a Bonnie Raitt. Bonnie Raitt, I love her stuff. But Joni goes, or she did actually, up until about 1980, she did go further than that, than either of them or any of the other people to really write original stuff. She had a very interesting harmonic sense. She used the same chords, but she juxtaposed them in different ways. I remember one time a friend of mine who had his own radio show in New York and really knew a lot about music. We were talking on the phone one day and he said, "Oh, you're really interested in Joni Mitchell. You put her right up there with Carly Simon." And I had to kind of bite my tongue and not laugh. Nothing against Carly Simon.
Right.
Her stuff, again, that's another person, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. And then when Joni Mitchell started to really started using real jazz musicians, when she started using Jaco Pastorius on the bass, it was just, again, when I think the first thing I ever heard of hers was the second album when she did the Chelsea Morning on it. And again, it was just something like I was just swept away. Not to mention the fact that she seemed to be quite a promiscuous and perhaps seductive character in her early days.
I was going to say, did that have anything to do with it?
It definitely did. Yes.
So do you know if she ever has learned of your albums?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I did send a couple to somebody who said they knew her, but I never got any feedback from it. But I did join a group which I connect on the internet. It's called the Joni Mitchell Discussion List.
Okay.
And
sounds like a very elite group.
Well, it is in a sense, but it's very widespread, it seems, And I first hooked up with them in about 1999 when my first album came out. And I sent it to them, and they were very enthusiastic about it. They really liked it. The people that were in the Joni Mitchell discussion list that I used to correspond with in 1999, almost all of them are gone. I mean, quite a few of them have died. There are still one or two that are still there, and it's 2025.
Right. Yeah, it's been some time since 1999.
Yeah.
So what can people expect, besides hearing some of your mother's music at the concert on September 18th? Well,
I think that I think Eric Penrod is going to play bass.
Oh, wonderful.
If I got his name right? Penrod?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I was going to say, yeah.
Eric Penrod's going to play bass. So I'll play a couple of my short original instrumental pieces.
Eric's great.
Yeah. I saw a video of him. I'm not going to have a chance to rehearse with him this weekend because he's in Mexico.
Okay.
But
yeah, he's just a super gifted guy, talented musician of many different instruments. Mm-hmm. He's also a photographer, very good photographer. He's very gifted.
Well, I look forward to playing. I'll send him a couple of charts so he can have a look. It's more about getting used to my calligraphy than the music. No, I try to be as clear as possible, but I think everybody's calligraphy is a little bit different.
Yes. Yeah. Mine has gotten very horrible nowadays since everyone's texting and typing. I'm not actually writing very much,
Do you write music? Do you notate music?
No, I don't. I mean, I used to write my own music in a rock band, but I've never actually notated any of that. Yeah. So I've never had any experience actually putting notes to paper.
I think maybe we'll open with a couple of those, just Eric and myself.
Some of your originals?
Yeah, a couple of simple songs. And then we're going to do, I'm not exactly sure how these things will line up time-wise, but I also have written, thanks to my mother. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
I'm actually a pretty good lyricist. So I've written many, many parodies of the Cole Porter song, Birds Do It, Bees Do It.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm hoping.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that.
So I'm hoping that, I can get some of the singers to do those. And then we will do, when her first big job was writing lyrics with Jimmy McHugh's music for the Cotton Club. You probably know that.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Cotton Club was in Harlem. And when she wrote songs for a lot of reviews, they're brief, they're superficial, and a lot of them are probably considered culturally unacceptable at this point. Because the Cotton Club was the place where the entertainers were black,
yes,
but the audience had to be white.
Yeah.
So
odd.
It's a famous landmark in American cultural history for that reason. Mm-hmm. But the band that played for her reviews was Ellington's band.
Oh my gosh.
So he had just...
You're talking about Duke, right?
Right, Duke. He had just kind of gotten started in New York. He had started in Washington, D.C., but he was in New York. So I picked him up in a cab one night. I was driving a cab. But that's another story.
What was that cab ride like?
Well, it was very brief.
It was very okay.
No, I was driving along on 81st Street next to the Museum of Natural History and the planetarium, right? And this guy gets in from behind, so I never saw who he was. But when he told me where he wanted to go, the voice sounded so familiar. And then he got out of the cab and I said, well, aren't you going to pay? And he said, don't worry. You'll get paid. I'm Duke Ellington. So then I told him who I was, right?
Yeah, be like,
and he remembered Dorothy Fields.
Okay.
So that's a long way of getting to the answer to your question, which is that we will do a few Duke Ellington songs too.
Okay. Well, how could you not with that connection between your mom and a funny cab ride? Don't worry. You'll get paid.
Actually, and he sent somebody down with the money later on. I sort of think he was probably going to a doctor. It was late at night. And, maybe he was getting like monkey gland shots or whatever.
Who knows?
Maybe I shouldn't accuse him of that at this point.
I mean,
I don't know.
That's okay. That's such a long time ago. I don't think anyone's gonna give us grief for that. So it'll be exciting to hear all the different variations. And I'm sure you're going to play some of your Joni Mitchell material. How could you not, right?
No, I don't.
No, okay.
No, I mean,
that's actually surprising to hear.
I would say, well, most of it, was done with a group of musicians.
Yes. Very well done, too.
If somebody you've heard some of them, right?
Yes, I have.
So if anybody wants to hear that stuff, go on YouTube and listen to it the way it really should be done.
Yeah.
I could play the Blue Motel Room thing on the piano, but if we really need to fill some more time, I guess I could do that.
I guess.
Yeah.
You've collaborated with a wide range of artists over the years. What have been some of the standouts for you?
Well, collaborated with, worked briefly with would be more accurate, I think. One of them was a wonderful jazz singer who was well along in years by the time I met her, Sylvia Sims. I don't know if you or any of your audience is going to be familiar with Sylvia Sims, but I do remember, some of us, maybe some of us in this room, have this sort of mental trophy case where we, in our imaginations, we put the things that we think showed us at our best and we'd like to be remembered for, right? So Sylvia and I and a really good bass player called Steve Laspina were going to do a cabaret show. And Sylvia wanted it to be songs from the movies. So she wanted to do Accentuate the Positive. You know that song.
I believe so, yeah.
And she was famous for being unable to communicate in a conventional way with musicians. So, there's Accentuate the Positive. There's probably several different ways that it could be played. And so I'm rehearsing with her one day, and I said, "Well, Sylvia, how do you want to do this?" And she had a way of talking, it could get kind of squeaky. Down by the river. What? Down by the river. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this is some kind of baptism, some kind of gospel fundamentalist Christian rite. She wants some kind of gospel-y thing. So I devised I must say, terrific gospel beat for her. And we did it. And the opening night, and Mrs. Mercer, Johnny Mercer was the lyricist for Accentuate the Positive. And Ginger, his widow, was in the audience. So the next night we come in and Sylvia says, "Ginger said that's the way John wanted it." That goes in my trophy case.
Wow.
She also said to me,
that's huge.
She also said to me at one point, "David, you're going to have a very important place in the history of discord." I guess some of my harmonic experiments that prompted her to say that.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. But that's the way John wanted it.
I mean, John Mercer, that's a big name right there.
Yeah,
so if, that, in fact, if John said that to, that's.
Well, this is what's called what hearsay, right?
Right. Yeah, but
It's from his widow, but still,
we're going to take that. We're going to take that. We're going to put that in
the trophy case.
Put that in the trophy case, because that is something that's one of those things you'll never forget.
Haven't forgotten it yet.
No, right, exactly, because it's in the mental trophy case. I'm curious, what is your favorite song or favorite songs that your mother wrote lyrics to? Do you have any that necessarily?
No, I have sort of different feelings about different songs. Some of her later stuff, the last show that she wrote, which debuted in 1973, and she didn't live very much longer after that. In fact, the day she died was March 28th, 1974, and she had been at some auditions for the road company of this musical, which was called Seesaw, based on the William Gibson comedy called Two for the Seesaw. It was a stage play. So she and Cy Coleman, after the success of Sweet Charity, they wanted to do a musical version of Seesaw. And I think that there are some songs, that's a score that is just undervalued in her entire catalog.
And probably just because it was later in her life, and things were a lot different in the 70s.
I don't remember actually what other musicals would be up for the Tony Awards that year.
Yeah.
1974. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do. I mean, I play her stuff all the time.
Sure.
So I don't really sit back and try to decide which one I like the best.
When you were younger, did you realize how big of a deal your mother was?
Not
or
really.
did that kind of come upon later in life, and realizing, oh my gosh, like, my mother was a big deal,
After she died, I don't know, I guess maybe a few months or something later, I was contacted by a man called Tran Rhodes in New York City. This was one of those guys who collects and idolizes the old songs, but the more obscure, the better.
Okay.
Right? And he had done a couple of them already, some shows in the basement of the All Souls Universalist Church on 80th Street and Lexington Avenue. And he wanted to do a show about Dorothy Fields' songs. So he contacted me because he wanted me to bless it, to say, yes, it's all right to use this. It's all right to use that. So one night I went up to a rehearsal and he was playing the piano, and he was so terrible at playing the piano that I said, I'd better be the piano player for this show. Right. And he was all too willing to turn it over to me.
He was like, here.
Yeah, you take it.
Yeah.
And I started, and I did 3 or 4 more of these retrospectives with him in the basement of the All Souls Church. And that was the beginning of my becoming familiar with not only the most popular songs, but a deeper feeling for each of these writers. We did a Yip Harburg one. And there's a wonderful song from that called Last Night When We Were Young. It's been recorded a few times, but it's not as popular as Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which you wrote. Right?
Yeah.
And we did a Mercer show, and we did really a weird one. In 1976, we did a show called Rodgers and Hart 1926. And so there's like some really wiggy stuff out of that show. But from that, I began, as I said, to be more familiar with and have fun with the older songs by the famous writers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I don't know a ton about that era, but I would just imagine your mother must have been quite a minority in that scene as a lyricist, right? I mean, it probably wasn't very much heard of. I don't know if that's true, but I just would imagine, considering the time period that was, that, the fact that she was a lyricist of, some of the most famous songs. And
well, Her first big hit was I Can't Give You Anything But Love, Baby. And that came from 1928. So at that time, she was in her mid 20s. And I think from that time on, she was known as somebody who could, write stuff that could be played and could get popular and make money. I mean, that's my definition of a star, is somebody who makes money for somebody else.
Yeah.
But she was, from her mid 20s, she was somebody who it was reasonable to seek after her to do lyrics because she had succeeded already. And she and Jimmy McHugh, they went to Hollywood around 1930. And then she got another huge break. The producer of a show, what the heck was the name of the show? I guess I can't remember the name of the show, but Jerome Kern was writing the music. And the producer came to her and said, "Can you set a lyric to this music?" And it was pretty complicated music. It turned out to be the song Lovely to Look At, which is an easy enough song if you don't have to deal with the verse. But of course, she had to deal with it. And the other part of the story is that she had never met Kern. He was in New York at the time. She's in Hollywood. And they were really kind of a little on pins and needles as to whether Kern would accept the lyric that she wrote. And I think she was very fast. Harold Arlen used to call her the Red Arrow because she could. And Kern apparently was charmed by this. And so when the next thing they worked together on was the film Swing Time, which is the biggest success. And they, some of the songs from Swing Time are among her best known songs. And they got the Academy Award in 1936, The Way You Look Tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say that's when she won the Academy Award, right?
Yeah.
That's such a huge deal. Do you have the award?
My let's see, who has it? It's actually the separated wife from my nephew.
Okay.
Because I had a sister. She's deceased now, but her son lived in Cardiff, Wales. And when it came time to deal with the property that my mother left behind, I took the piano and she took the Oscar. So she gave it to her son, and now they're separated, but it's Kate who has it in Cardiff somewhere. Yeah. But I do remember, this is a nice little story if I can get it right.
Yeah.
I did have, and I probably do have it somewhere, the note that Kern wrote to her after the ceremony, after the Oscar was awarded. And for whatever reason, he was not there. And she was there. And she apparently made a little speech. So he writes this note, and it says, wish me luck with this one because...
I'm wishing you luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dorothy, my dearest, if I tried to say this to you by word of mouth, it would probably embarrass both of us and make me cry. But here is my heartfelt gratitude for your gallant and generous speech. Believe me, it means more than all the effigies in the Academy to your deeply touched Jerry.
It's a very touching note.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you have that memorized.
It's significant.
That is very significant. Yeah. Do you still have the piano?
The piano, see what happened. I think maybe it might be. No, I don't. Oh, no. I think my nephew gave it to his prep school.
Oh, wow. What a place for that to go.
Yeah.
What kind of piano was it?
It was a Steinway.
Okay.
It was a kind of medium-sized Steinway grand that she had in the apartment.
Wow, man. Are there any other sentimental things of your mother that you keep near and dear to you?
The answer to that would be the songs that are in my head and that I play all the time.
What kind of what was your relationship like with your mother?
Well, I think it was probably pretty normal. You know, it's had its ups and downs, but she recognized, and I credit her for this. She recognized that I was a musical person, and that something that I would do in music would be fulfilling for me, and she never discouraged that.
And she also never tried to get you to go down the path that she did.
Well, you see,
either.
She died when I was still like jazz crazed. I was like 33 years old at the time, and I was starting to write a little music. I was playing, I think I was playing intermissions at the Village Gate in New York. And again, I did play a lot of standards, and I was starting to work with singers, which turns out to be the thing that I do the best.
Okay.
But I mean, she never suggested that I try to write the score to a musical,
right?
Anything like that.
Yeah. Or it was like, hey, you should, be a lyricist like me.
No, she didn't. I think my lyric writing really came later. I wrote some. Oh, have you ever heard of a guy called Mike Zager from the group Zager and Evans?
Yeah.
You remember them? One day, a musician that we know tells me, Mike Zager, I gave your name to Mike Zager, he says, and he wants you to write some swing lyrics. What? Swing lyrics? Because he wants to collaborate. He wants somebody that can write swing lyrics and he can write the music. So, oh my God, a commission.
Yeah.
So I start to write, but I realize this is not going to work. I have to write the entire song. So I wrote like maybe five. In fact, I think Mary is going to sing one of them.
Okay.
On the 18th.
Wow.
I wrote maybe 4 or 5 of these things, and I thought they were damn good. Of course, I never heard from Zager again when I sent them to him. But
so he never used them.
Not to my knowledge. Anyway.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
did you decide to pitch them to anyone else at that point, or?
I very rarely pitch anything to anybody. I think
that was not necessarily your style or something you were doing where you were writing songs and pitching them to different publishers or artists or anything like that.
I gave one song quite a while ago to my mother's publisher, the publishing company that administers most of her copyrights. But the stuff is just a little bit weird. In fact, my wife and I are on the road, right?
Right.
So we're listening to Barbra Streisand's memoir, which runs for like maybe 20 hours or more.
Yeah,
but
it's a long one.
So, have you heard it?
No, I haven't, but I've heard it's interesting.
It's so revealing. And so, like, I guess yesterday or whatever, I'm thinking, what would happen if I ever pitched a melody to some instrumental thing that I wrote to Barbra Streisand because she's a director. Maybe she wants to use this as a thing. And I said, it's not going to happen. First of all, I have no path to her. And secondly, my stuff is just probably a little bit weird.
Yeah.
A little weird.
Yeah. Well, everyone's got their own style, and that's okay. Yeah. Well, David, this has been great.
I've had a good time.
Thank you so much for your time. We encourage everyone, of course, to go to the concert Thursday, September 18th in the Column Garden. And I assume that if weather gets murky, it'll just get moved indoors. In fact, you were testing out the grand piano here.
Yeah, I like it. And if anybody wants to try to write a parody to Birds Do It, Bees Do It, bring it along and I'll take a look.
We'll have maybe a little live karaoke going on.
We could do that. We could do that.
All right. Well, thank you again, David.
Amen.